Welcome back to my channel. Today the drama intensified as Steffi's growing suspicions pushed her to take matters into her own hands, setting off a chain reaction that affected everyone around her. What started as quiet concern quickly escalated into a risky investigation, while Hope found herself fighting back against criticism and judgment from multiple directions. At the same time, Wyatt faced a significant crossroads involving the Logan family, forcing him to make a decision that could have lasting consequences for his future and his relationships. Steffi had never been someone who ignored her instincts. Whenever something felt off, she tended to trust her gut, even when others advised caution. Recently, several situations had left her feeling uneasy. Conversations seemed incomplete. Explanations failed to satisfy her, and certain behaviors raised more questions than answers. The more she thought about these inconsistencies, the more convinced she became that important information was being kept from her. At first, Steffi tried to dismiss her concerns. She reminded herself that assumptions could be dangerous and that jumping to conclusions often created unnecessary conflict. However, the nagging feeling refused to disappear. Instead, it grew stronger with every passing day. Eventually, curiosity and suspicion overcame her patience, leading her to begin quietly investigating matters herself. Her snooping started innocently enough. She paid closer attention to conversations, watched interactions more carefully, and looked for clues that might explain the strange atmosphere she had noticed. But the deeper she dug, the more determined she became. Every small discovery seemed to reinforce her belief that something significant was happening behind the scenes. Steffi knew that if others discovered what she was doing, they would likely accuse her of meddling. Yet she convinced herself that uncovering the truth justified the risk. In her mind, ignorance was far more dangerous than asking difficult questions. If secrets were being hidden, she wanted to know why. Unfortunately, her investigation quickly created problems of its own. People began noticing her unusual interest in certain matters. Questions that might have seemed casual before now carried an edge of suspicion. Conversations became tense whenever Steffi appeared, and some individuals started wondering whether she was trying to uncover information that wasn't hers to find. As Steffi continued pushing forward, Hope became increasingly aware of the scrutiny surrounding her. For some time she had felt as though every move she made was being examined and criticized. The pressure had been building quietly, but Steffi's behavior brought those frustrations to the surface. Hope had worked hard to move forward from past conflicts and mistakes. She understood that not everyone would immediately trust her intentions, but she believed she deserved a fair chance to grow and evolve. Instead, she often felt trapped by old perceptions that refused to fade. The more Hope sensed Steffi's suspicion, the more frustrated she became. It seemed that no matter what she did, someone always found a reason to question her motives. Small actions were interpreted negatively. Innocent decisions became sources of controversy, and every misunderstanding appeared to reinforce existing judgments. Eventually, Hope reached her breaking point. Rather than remaining silent, she decided to confront the situation directly. She refused to continue accepting criticism without defending herself. The backlash came swiftly and forcefully as Hope made it clear she was tired of being treated as though she constantly needed to prove her worth. During a particularly heated confrontation, Hope challenged the assumptions being made about her. She argued that people were too quick to judge and too unwilling to acknowledge how much she had changed. Her frustration was impossible to ignore. Years of bottled-up resentment poured out as she explained how exhausting it felt to constantly live under suspicion. Hope insisted that she had every right to make her own choices without having those decisions immediately questioned. She pointed out that others were often given the benefit of the doubt while she remained stuck defending herself against accusations rooted in the past. Her words struck a nerve. Some people sympathized with Hope's position and agreed she was being treated unfairly. Others felt her reaction only confirmed existing concerns. As a result, tensions throughout the family and business community continued escalating. Meanwhile, Wyatt found himself facing a dilemma of his own. Unlike the explosive conflict between Steffi and Hope, Wyatt's situation developed more quietly. Nevertheless, the decision before him carried enormous emotional significance. His connection to the Logan family had always been complicated, shaped by loyalty, affection, and occasional disappointment. Recently, circumstances forced Wyatt to reconsider where he stood and what he wanted moving forward. Questions about family obligations, personal priorities, and future goals all demanded answers. The more he thought about it, the clearer it became that remaining neutral was no longer possible. Wyatt understood that whatever choice he made would affect multiple relationships. Some people expected him to support one side, while others hoped he would choose another path entirely. The pressure was substantial because everyone seemed convinced his decision would reveal where his true loyalties lay. As he weighed his options, Wyatt spent considerable time reflecting on his experiences with the Logans. There had been moments of tremendous support and genuine connection. There had also been periods of frustration, misunderstandings, and conflict. Sorting through those memories proved difficult because they painted a complicated picture rather than providing a simple answer. The emotional stakes became even higher as family members began expressing their opinions. Some encouraged Wyatt to follow his heart. Others tried persuading him that certain choices would be better for everyone involved. While many meant well, the constant advice only made the decision more challenging. Wyatt appreciated the concern, but he knew the final choice had to be his. At the same time, Steffi's investigation continued, creating ripples throughout the community. Every new question she asked seemed to generate additional tension. People became defensive, conversations turned awkward, and trust slowly eroded. The irony was that Steffi genuinely believed she was helping. From her perspective, uncovering hidden truths could prevent larger problems later. Yet her methods created exactly the kind of conflict she hoped to avoid. Hope, meanwhile, remained determined not to back down. After years of feeling misunderstood, she saw no reason to remain silent simply to keep the peace. If people wanted to challenge her, she was prepared to defend herself. The growing conflict highlighted deeper issues affecting everyone involved. Trust had become fragile. Communication was breaking down. Old wounds that should have healed long ago continued influencing present-day interactions. Wyatt watched much of this unfold while wrestling with his own choice. In many ways, the turmoil around him reinforced how important his decision truly was. Family dynamics were shifting, alliances were changing, and emotional tensions were running high. Eventually, Wyatt realized that delaying the decision would only create additional uncertainty. Sooner or later, he would need to choose a direction and accept the consequences that came with it. As he prepared to do so, those closest to him waited anxiously. Some hoped his decision would bring stability. Others worried it might deepen existing divisions. Regardless of the outcome, everyone understood that the choice marked an important turning point. Meanwhile, Hope's determination continued growing stronger. Instead of allowing criticism to weaken her confidence, she used it as motivation. Every accusation reinforced her commitment to standing up for herself and refusing to let others define her identity. Steffi also remained convinced she was pursuing the right course of action. Even as tensions increased, she believed answers were within reach. The possibility of uncovering important information kept her moving forward despite mounting resistance. The collision between these storylines created an atmosphere filled with uncertainty and anticipation. Steffi's search for answers, Hope's refusal to remain silent, and Wyatt's life-changing decision all unfolded simultaneously, each influencing the others in unexpected ways. By the time emotions finally began settling, it was clear that nothing would remain exactly the same. Relationships had been tested, loyalties had been questioned, personal convictions had been challenged. Steffi's determination to uncover the truth demonstrated both the strength and danger of following suspicion too far. Hope's backlash revealed the emotional toll of constantly living under scrutiny. Wyatt's decision highlighted the difficult reality that sometimes important choices require balancing personal desires against family expectations. Together, these developments created a powerful chapter filled with drama, emotion, and uncertainty. Each character found themselves confronting difficult questions about trust, loyalty, and identity, and as the consequences of their actions continued unfolding, the future remained anything but predictable. One thing, however, was certain: the choices made during this turbulent period would leave lasting effects long after the immediate conflicts faded. Whether relationships emerged stronger or more fractured remained to be seen, but nobody involved would soon forget the tension, emotion, and life-changing decisions that defined these unforgettable events. The fallout from Steffi's increasingly intrusive search for answers continued to spread throughout the lives of everyone involved. What had started as suspicion was quickly evolving into a full-scale obsession. The more she investigated, the more convinced she became that important details were being hidden from her. Unfortunately, that determination also caused her to cross boundaries that many felt should never have been crossed. Steffi justified her actions by telling herself that she was protecting the people she loved. She believed that unanswered questions often led to larger problems, and that uncovering the truth early could prevent future disasters. Yet those around her saw things differently. To them, Steffi appeared unable to let go of old fears and grudges, allowing suspicion to dictate her behavior instead of trust. Every new piece of information she uncovered seemed to raise even more questions. Rather than bringing clarity, her investigation created greater confusion and emotional instability. Conversations became tense whenever she entered a room. Family members grew cautious about what they said around her. Friends who once felt comfortable sharing personal matters suddenly became guarded. The atmosphere became increasingly uncomfortable. Hope found herself at the center of much of that discomfort. Although she had tried repeatedly to move forward and focus on her own future, Steffi's constant scrutiny made that nearly impossible. Every decision Hope made seemed to attract criticism. Every conversation was examined for hidden meaning. Every choice became evidence in a case that Hope felt she never should have been forced to defend. The frustration she carried continued building. For years, Hope had attempted to maintain peace even when tensions flared. She often chose compromise over confrontation and patience over retaliation. But there comes a point when even the most patient person reaches a limit. Steffi's relentless suspicion pushed Hope dangerously close to that point. Friends noticed the change in her. The calm and measured woman they knew was becoming increasingly vocal and assertive. Hope was no longer willing to quietly absorb criticism while others questioned her intentions. She began challenging accusations directly and refusing to apologize for decisions she believed were justified. That shift surprised many people. Some admired her newfound confidence. Others worried it signaled a deeper emotional fracture that could lead to even greater conflict. Regardless of their opinions, nobody could deny that Hope was changing. The constant pressure had forced her to reevaluate how she responded to criticism and whether keeping the peace was always worth the personal cost. At the same time, Wyatt continued wrestling with the difficult decision involving the Logan family. The closer he came to making a choice, the more complicated everything felt. What initially seemed like a straightforward matter quickly revealed layers of emotional complexity. Family history, personal loyalty, and future aspirations all competed for influence over his final decision. Wyatt spent countless hours considering every possible outcome. He imagined how different people might react depending on the path he chose. He weighed potential benefits against possible consequences. He replayed conversations in his mind, searching for clues about what the right answer might be. Yet clarity remained frustratingly elusive. One reason the decision proved so difficult was because Wyatt genuinely cared about multiple people whose interests did not necessarily align. Supporting one side risked disappointing another. Choosing one direction could create distance where he hoped to maintain closeness. The emotional burden was significant. Several family members attempted to influence him, each presenting arguments about why their perspective made the most sense. Some emphasized loyalty. Others focused on opportunity. A few appealed directly to emotion, reminding Wyatt of shared experiences and personal connections. While he appreciated their input, Wyatt increasingly realized that no amount of outside advice could make the decision for him. Eventually, he would need to trust his own judgment. Meanwhile, Steffi's actions continued generating controversy. Rumors began circulating about how far she was willing to go in pursuit of answers. Some people viewed her persistence as admirable determination. Others saw it as a troubling inability to respect boundaries. The debate divided opinions and further strained already fragile relationships. What made the situation especially complicated was that Steffi occasionally uncovered information that validated some of her concerns. These moments reinforced her belief that her instincts were correct. Unfortunately, they also encouraged her to continue digging deeper, often without considering the emotional consequences. Hope grew increasingly tired of defending herself. She felt trapped in a cycle where every explanation she offered was dismissed and every attempt to move forward was met with renewed suspicion. The experience left her emotionally exhausted. At one point, she confided to a close friend that she no longer recognized the dynamic between herself and Steffi.